Radio. We're on episode 66, and today's topic is being of service. That's our relentless food for thought topic. And who I'm talking with is JO Willey Marcotte, right?
Got it.
I want to say Marcotti because I'm Italian.
Right.
Sarah Jo and I have been friends for 15 flipping years, and we both have a very similar approach to polypreneurship. And every time we get together for coffee when I'm home in Vermont, we're always amazed at how similar we are. So I said, I really need to have you on Relentless Talk Radio, and she invited me to be on her blog. So that has it gone out yet? The blog? Not yet, right?
It's gonna go out this week.
Oh, it's like perfect timing, right?
Yeah,
so tell everybody who you are and what you do. I know we have a lead biz that we want to talk about, but we also have other things that we're doing. So go ahead.
There's so many things. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I am an artist and a creative at heart. I'm a teacher at heart and a coach at heart, and the list goes on and on. I own multiple businesses. I'm also a career and tech ed teacher. I manage a business for my husband, and I am always out and about seeking to just live my core values, which are number one, to make a difference, and number two, to seek and advocate for justice. So those two things come together in a variety of ways, both in formalized businesses and in community service and volunteering and advocating. So, I mean, we have a lot of time together. I'm sure we're going to dig into a lot of those things.
You give me such relief when I talk to you, and I think you feel the same way about me, because you and I have a very similar approach to life generally. I don't see a separation, which the stuff that I make money at and the stuff that I do in my home and in my personal life and the stuff that I do in the community. To me, it's all the same mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's all the same mission. And one of the things that we were talking about offline this morning when we were just kind of testing to make sure BeLive worked is that we both have an over mission, and everything that we do is siphoned through that funnel. And so for you, it's to make a difference. And for me, it's to lift up and inspire. It's to lift up and encourage others to discover their best. Like, I got rid of the word inspirational. I don't know why that even snuck in there, right? So it's to lift up and encourage others to discover their best, because I believe that inspiration is kind of arrogant. I don't really believe I'm qualified to inspire people, but I do know that by sharing my personal story and by lifting others up, that I can encourage them to discover their own story. And so everything that I do is siphoned through that funnel, just like everything that you do is siphoned through making a difference. Yeah. So when you and I met, we were both Rotarians. That's how we met. We were in the Rotary together in Essex Junction. And I had just started my salon, the Red Clover Salon, which is still open in Essex Junction. And you should reach out to Mary Motto and see how you can support that business in the downtown, this weird thing that we're going through right now. She's dreaming up some stuff, right? And it was just recession time, quite frankly. And you had just opened up the year prior Creative Muse Florist, which is where your creativity, I'm not going to say it's where it lives. It's one of the places where you put your creativity. So let's talk about Creative Muse first. I mean, I'm just a huge fan of what you do with flowers. It really is magic. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so Creative Muse Floral Design is really a business that emerged out of a lifelong passion for design. And I've always been a person, like I said, I'm a creative at heart, but I have never been someone who could put all my eggs in one basket in terms of art. So even as a young child, I loved, grew up on the back roads of northern Vermont on dirt roads, and I loved this time of year when things would be starting to grow and bloom, and just walking up and down the road, picking things and making arrangements, and going through the woods and finding pieces of bone and recreating Georgia O'Keeffe paintings, and all of those kinds of things that connected me to visual art and design and nature. And I think that has been part of my life forever. And even as a young person, as a student in elementary school and high school, I just soaked up all aspects of art classes and just enrolled in whatever I could to explore all kinds of art. I even actually, Michelle, I don't know if you know this, but I applied to go to art school right out of high school, and had an
I
interview
love
at
this
the
show.
Art
I get to
Institute
learn
of
a little
Boston.
thing.
I know, right? So I bring my portfolio down to Boston to interview at the Art Institute, and I actually got accepted, but it was the most. Um, it was kind of like a humiliating and embarrassing and really quite awful experience to have my work critiqued. I was not prepared for it. And for me, like, my work was so personal. And to have someone, although they said, we would welcome you here, we would love to have you as part of the student body, I was not at a place where I was open to be able to get feedback about my art. And so then I went off to business school and said, you know what? I'm always going to have a passion for art. I know I will always pursue this on my own. I might not be ready to get to the next level yet, but I know that I have this urge inside of me that will always need to be fulfilled, and therefore I know I will grow in this area. And lo and behold, I went off to college, I got a degree in marketing, and my dad had been diagnosed with cancer at the time. So I had to move back home, and it was kind of an uncertain time. And I needed a job. We've all been there where we're like, it doesn't really matter what our passion, our purpose is, like, we got to pay the bills, right?
Yeah,
You got to
yeah,
get
right.
something lined up. And so I opened up the newspaper and I saw an ad from a local flower shop for someone who was just looking for some help. And I was like, okay, I this is something I can do. And I went and I
Right.
interviewed, and my friend Vicky gave me the job. And I said, look, like, I don't know, I'm not formally trained, but I have a passion for art. I get color theory and design, and I think I could do this. And sure enough, it didn't take me very long to realize, like, wow, not only is this a place where business and art and creativity and nature all come together, but it's something that I, like, have a natural ability for. And so you know how it is when you find something that you're passionate about, that you're interested in, that you gravitate toward, and you also have a natural ability. When all of those things can come together, it can be pretty magical. And it was. And I fell in love with the industry. I was able to be mentored by some incredible designers in our area. And I started to just, like, get this seed planted in my mind about doing wedding floral design exclusively. And at that time, the industry wasn't what it is now. So all over the world, really, but especially here in Vermont, like, the wedding floral industry itself has really exploded in the past decade, but especially maybe like the past 5 to 7 years, where there are lots of designers that's exclusively what they do. They have they have a private studio, or they work from their home and they only do weddings. But back in the late 90s, I'm thinking in my little entrepreneurial brain, like, how could I make this happen? And I can remember talking to my boss at the time, and she's remains a good friend of mine. And she's just like, I don't know, And I talked to other people who were just like, I don't know how you would make that happen. But I kind of worked a little business plan in my mind, and I thought, someday I'm going to figure out how to do this. And so by the time you and I got connected, Michelle, I was just like gung ho. And you know how it is when you have that entrepreneurial spirit and you're just not willing to take no for an answer, and you're going to do it, like, no matter what, even
You just can't
if
help yourself.
right, even if it's not profitable, even if you're not going about it the right way, even if it doesn't make sense. It's just like, I'm going to make this happen. And I put myself out there, and it took off. If I could do it all over again, there are lots of pitfalls and mistakes that I would do completely differently. But I'm where I am now because I was relentless in my vision for how to put the pieces together in a way that made sense for me. So I was not interested in doing arrangements of blue carnations for senior night for the local high school. And I didn't particularly want to just fill orders. I very quickly realized that I want to be a part of bringing a vision to life for couples who are getting married in Vermont. And over the years, that's evolved, and I figured out, who my very specific clients are. And it brings me such incredible joy and fulfillment to be able to put all of the pieces of things that are important to me, of being an entrepreneur, of being a business leader, of being a creative, of connecting with local growers and sustainability and supporting a growing, thriving, um, industry in our area, and to do like what you're sharing on this screen. That's my bride, Sarah. And I mean, what can be better than that when you
I
show
just,
up
I
on a
had to
Saturday
show
morning?
pictures. I'm clicking away. I'm listening. For all those you people, what is she doing? I haven't got a production crew. I had to go get the picture. I just love what you do because it's so original and it's so luscious. Like, you can go to Walmart or to Costco or whatever and just get a bunch of flowers. They're kind of half dead. They're not, they're pretty, they're flowers, but what you create is literally luscious. Like that you choose
No.
every flower and they're full of life, the flowers that you
Yeah.
choose, and how you put them together is magic. And I just
Yeah.
always have been a big admirer of how you've been able to now, and I've put together some floral arrangements myself over the years. It's not like it's really difficult. I am not good at it. And I'm pretty good. I'm a creative too, so I'm pretty good at a lot of creative things. But you have to know the flower and know how to cut it and know how to place it so the thing doesn't die. Like, if you want to grow a plant, just give it to me. I've always been really bad with keeping plants alive. I have a plant out in the porch that's been alive for a couple months. I'm so excited about it. I don't know, maybe I've turned the corner. But to put those flowers together in such a way that they're alive and luscious and they're perfect. And this is you've shared 2 pictures with us that are of the bride actually having an experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen what you do to rooms. And what you
Yes.
do to rooms is amazing. You literally transform the entire space. If it weren't for the flowers, it would be the run-of-the-mill kind of deal. So having an amazing florist like yourself that literally pours her heart into what she does and listens to what the bride wants and not only gives what the bride wants, but over delivers every time. I've never heard anyone who's worked with you say, you know what, Sarah Jo did a good job. They say, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what Sarah Jo did for me. And I'm not just saying that because you're my friend. I'm saying that because it's the flipping truth. It's just the truth. You over deliver every time. And it's a very talented, it's beyond talent, because you can have talented people, but they can't deliver a quality product. And there's a lot of creatives, and I say this with all the love in the world, okay, that are great creatives, but they can't deliver a finished product because they don't get the business part of it and the people part of it, which I think is just a huge part of what you do. And I just really sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks. And I think, just to piggyback on what you're saying, I think, and for people listening, regardless of what your particular passion or ability or interest is, it is really dialing into understanding you and what you bring to the table. So I know for me, I would, that making that decision not to go to art school was probably one of the best things I could do as an 18-year-old, because there was no way I was going to be fulfilled just being in a studio creating art. That's just one piece, right? That creative expression is only one piece. So for me, I know that I'm a person that values relationships. I have to be building relationships. I want to understand the other person, their needs and their wants, and I want to be able to create an innovative, creative solution. I want to be able to bring vision to life. I want to be able to interact with people, and I want to be able to run a business, and I want to be able to brand, and I want to be able to do marketing and all of those things. And so this particular business that I've worked to develop now for 16 years officially is the culmination of all of those things. And like that's where the sweet stuff is, right? To be able to know what you're doing pulls in all of your key talents and interests and keeps you engaged and keeps you, wanting to get up and do it over and over and over again, because you're not, I don't burn out on it. I burned out when I had a retail shop, right? And I was doing 50 and 60 weddings a year, plus day-to-day business, plus funerals, plus blue carnations, and I couldn't
Yeah.
do it. Nearly killed me on so many
I remember
levels.
talking to you in that time period.
Yeah,
You were trying to make a decision, like, do I stay or do I go now? Like that song.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I've been there. Having a brick and mortar. I mean, can we talk? Having a brick and mortar
yeah,
location
absolutely.
with doors and windows and a fire marshal and a plumbing inspector and city and just all of the things that go with having a brick and mortar place. My heart is just breaking for the small business owners that did everything they could to scrape together enough money to be able to buy their equipment, open the doors, make the sign, put the lights up, get the mat on every little detail. When you're a small business owner, when you own a brick and mortar, and you watched me put together the Red Clover, where I redesigned the space. I created, manufactured, and hung the sign. I created all the business cards, all the marketing. I had a very out of the box marketing, of course, right? Plan from the beginning. It was hair care with a mission, right? I'm watching these small business owners, just my heart just breaks.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful that the government realizes they need to supplement, because it's just when you have a brick and mortar, it's a lot. And I think for me, the same thing happened for you. And I remember talking about this when you were making the decision to close your shop. And I remember you and I talking about how I was feeling when I made a decision to sell the salon, that it just wasn't the best use of my time.
Yeah.
I could have moved forward and been successful, but my heart wasn't in the brick and mortar experience.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that's fine, because you can take the pieces of the business that you love to do, which is weddings. And even this year, you've made a decision to only do so many weddings, correct?
Yeah, this year, wow, every day I'm wondering what this year is going to look like.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm gonna just set aside these couple of weekends. I'm gonna do 8 to 10 weddings. For me, it supplements my family's budget and our finances. My husband and I both are employed in full time work. We have salary. We have a W-2, that kind of more traditional mode of making a living. So that provides me with, an
Flexibility.
incredible flexibility, and right now security. I'm like so grateful that I have that right now, because like you, my heart is breaking for my fellow small business owners, that is their
The
income,
whole
that is
thing.
their source of survival. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, this year, hopefully being able to, get in an RV and go travel with my family, and to enjoy the years where my son still wants to hang out with mom and dad.
Oh,
And
right.
hopefully get to some late season air shows with my husband, who's an air show pilot. But of course, every day right now with the COVID-19 crisis, our industries, that are involved with the public are being impacted. So I'm in close contact with my brides right now, and fortunately, I feel fortunate that most of my events are later in the season, and I'm hopeful that things will
Things will
come
pass
together.
by now.
But it's part of being an entrepreneur. You have to roll with those external threats to your business that you can't control, and you have to have contingency plans. And wow, I'm really grateful that I have a solid contract, with my
Right.
clients. And you have to continue to be flexible. But it's a perfect segue into exploring this topic today, that when you can diversify as an entrepreneur and not have all your eggs in one basket, in a
Right.
way that is authentic, in a way that allows you to work into whatever, your core value or your why or your mission, however you choose to express that there is so much freedom in that, when you're like, okay, well, this is going to have to be set
Right.
aside right
We have
now,
to
or
put things
this
aside
isn't
for
going to
right
work
now.
right now. Yeah. Yeah.
Because
So
you also have a W-2 where you have
mhm,
have a flexible schedule, but you are a school teacher and you work
yeah.
for the cold cold care center, cold code.
Cold Hollow Career Center.
how did I miss the word hollow when I wrote my note down?
CHCC.
Wait, cold care is what I wrote down. That basically tells you where my brain is. So you're in charge of you teach business leadership there. And what I love about what you do is you, first of all, you focus on 15 to 18-year-olds, and you believe, like I believe, that business is the essence of all careers.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is controversial because I'm a creative. I'm a painter and a visual journalist, okay? And the story that I tell is usually about entrepreneurism or philanthropy. And then an image is inspired from those stories. And I feel that art is business and business is art. And you feel the same way, and it manifests itself in different ways. But really, no matter what you're going to do in life, whether you're an artist or a doctor, an attorney, or a car mechanic, or you open an AC shop, or you go work for a software company, business is the essence of everything you do. Even if you're a waitress, I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing in life, business is the core essence. And I believe in that 120%. I love that you're teaching Vermont kids, rural kids that are not near a metropolitan area, that get a chance to see lots of different ways of living, that you live in a small community and there's usually a couple different ways people live. But you're really teaching kids about how you can live a big life in a small town. I love your bio on your, what do you say in your bio on Facebook? It says,
Oh, that just a small town girl, but not just.
but not just, right? I love that you're demonstrating that to young people that are on their way into the world, that they can have a trade, or they can become a doctor or an artist or whatever it is, but no matter what they're doing, they're going to be in business.
Absolutely. You know, and here's the deal. I'm a product of career and technical education. So I am teaching in the school, the actual building that I graduated from as a teenager. You know, the programs look a little bit different X number of years down the road, but, you know, much like many of us in our professional journeys, you end up somewhere where you didn't anticipate, you didn't plan for it, but when you look back, you're like, duh, right? So
Of course I'm doing that.
I didn't set out to be a teacher. I went off and I was prepared to pursue a career in marketing or advertising or public relations in Boston, and was convinced I was hightailing it out of rural Vermont and never coming back. And I came back, you know, and because life happens, and I'm going to steal your phrase, life is always in session. Like
Right.
we don't get to opt out of it. So stuff happened. I came back home. I ended up working for that flower shop, and then going back to school, and in a roundabout kind of way, got a phone call one day from the director of the career center, who said, you know, I've got a teacher that's out for a semester. We need a short-term sub in the marketing program, which was the program that I graduated from. Is that anything you'd be interested in? And I was like, sure, why not? It was short term, and I was like, I
Right.
needed money, I needed cash, I needed an apartment, I had bills to pay, and I was
Right.
like, yeah, that would be great. And wow, it wasn't but just a handful of days, and I realized, like, this is something that I think I could really see myself doing. And it's interesting because my high school marketing teacher had said to me one day back, you know, I was probably 16. He said, someday you're going to be sitting in my desk. And I was like, okay, Mr. Walters, whatever. Like, I don't think so. I'm out of here. And when I took that long-term sub position, I was sitting in his desk. So there was, like, you know, that the irony, but also I think that power
It's
of
so
kind
funny.
of dialing into what other people see in you before you know it about yourself. And so, you know, I had people who definitely saw that, you know, that leadership potential in me even before I knew that it was there. But I caught the bug, and then went on and taught marketing at a different high school full time for a couple of years. Then I got involved in Dale Carnegie training, which is how we got connected, on in some respects, because that's how I ended up in Rotary. um,
See, I
so
never knew that.
yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
Dale Carnegie training came to me. I was Miss Vermont in 2002, and I got a scholarship to take a Dale Carnegie course, and I took advantage of that. And I was teaching at the time and really got connected with the local franchise owners who became like a family to me. And, they said, would you ever be interested in, becoming a trainer? And I thought, well, hey, why not? I really loved the course. I could really get behind the principles and the whole philosophy of the organization. And it just seemed like a logical step from teaching into corporate training and development. So I pursued it and was there for a number of years and joined the local Rotary for networking. And
I took the Dale Carnegie course with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of these things all happening simultaneously, right? So I'm teaching marketing. I'm getting involved in tech ed, which had such a profound impact on me as a young person. Then I discover Dale Carnegie training. I go through the rigorous process to become a certified trainer. I do sales consulting. Get my feet wet in the world of corporate training and development and really find a foothold there and just a passion for coaching and empowering people for personal and professional growth. And again, life is always in session. So life happens and things happen and continue evolving. And so I'm in my 7th year, finishing up my 7th year back at Cold Hollow Career Center, teaching full-time during this academic school year, 11th and 12th graders in a 2-year program. So the students come to me typically as a junior, sometimes as a sophomore. My first year program is all focused on personal development. So we do things like really digging into strengths, personal strengths. And I really subscribe to Marcus Buckingham's idea of strength, not as something that someone says you're good at, but as those activities that make us feel strong and make us feel magnificent. So we do a deep dig with that, really honing in on core values, career exploration. We do design thinking and personal productivity, career development, personal finance, all of those things that are transferable skills that we all need and that students can leverage in feeling confident about their initial steps out of high school. And then in year 2 is where we dig more into business and they can get college credit embedded right into my class. Basically, they're taking intro to business. And we do all kinds of creative things and giving them, a broad perspective of all aspects of business with some hands-on application and a lot of work-based learning. So, my students are having an opportunity to, like you say, really understand in a hands-on way that business is the essence of everything. So I always tell students, even if you're going to do the important work for a period of time of staying at home and raising human beings, you are still
the most important job.
Absolutely. You're still engaged in business because you've got to keep a household running. You're going to have to manage your household budget. You have to keep people fed. You have to make sure that you have enough money coming in to cover the things going out. You're a consumer, even as a
and you have to practice conflict management.
And they have, to be able to empower them with consumer skills and understanding how businesses work and understanding marketing and understanding, personal finance as well as how finance impacts businesses. It's just so rewarding for me to be able to know that students are leaving with these transferable skills that are going to help them regardless of where their career ends up evolving.
It's just so huge. I mean, I think that Vermont really does a great job. I went to an amazing elementary school that was totally innovative, and I think I'd be a completely different person had I grown up anywhere else, because Vermont really does think out of the box a lot. And I think part of the reason why is because we have to. We're this small little state, and we have to get creative about how we earn a living and how we do that. And a lot of our students leave and go elsewhere. And I think Vermont is really trying to keep kids there. Part of my business this year is really focused on helping Vermonters earn a living. Here from Arizona, with Arizona-based company, but I really always feel compelled to go back to Vermont because, you know me, I think that Vermonters deserve to have a stellar life with a more than livable wage. $11 is not a livable wage. Yeah, it's I don't know how people live on $11. It's just not. how do you raise a family on $11 an hour? You just can't do that. So I love the work that you're doing with the school. And you also help your husband, which you got a boyfriend, girlfriend engaged for like ever. And how many years ago now? That 2 or 3 years ago?
2 years.
2 years ago,
Yeah.
you had this really cool, of course you had a really cool out of the box, like totally neat wedding. You had a rock wedding that you, of course you applied to there's a rock wedding magazines kind of, there's all these groups with people who have these rock, and I wasn't able to be there, and I can't remember why. There was something going on that kept me, I was so bummed out, but you shared the recordings and the videos, and so you have this amazing man that you were together with forever, and then you finally decided to do the marriage thing, and then when you did, it was like so over the top. But you helped him. We're going to talk about the wedding a little bit, but you help him with his business, Dan Maricotte Air Shows, and he's also a freelancer. So your marriage and your life is an example of polypreneurship. You both have some W-2 contract work. You have your own businesses that are making money. You have things that you're doing in the community. Everything you do personally is an example of love and service. I mean, it's literally an entire hodgepodge a quilt of let's just get this family taken care of activity. Yeah. While we are singing, making music, designing flowers, being creative. And I did some paintings a couple of years ago that were inspired by Dan's business, and sent you a couple of those back about visioning, because how he visions each one of his rides is really a very creative process. So tell us a little bit about what you do for Dan, and just you and Dan.
Absolutely. So Dan and I are just an incredible team, and I think that is the essence of our relationship has always been about teamwork. So we grew up down the road from one another. He's a few years older than me. We went to different high schools. I always joke and tell people that even though my parents never actually said this, I always believe in their minds they would have told me as a teenager, you can date anyone in the world except for that guy. He was
I didn't know that. That's so funny. He was what?
He was a troublemaker. He was, drag racing up and down Main Street at 3 a.m. and getting into trouble. And but we connected.
Awesome.
We connected through a mutual friend through music back in the late 90s. We ended up in a band together, and
your parents were like, "Oh,
I know, right?" Just ignited this amazing, amazing friendship, and it just, it evolved from there. But the beauty of our relationship is that Dan is also a creative in a different kind of way. He's a master welder and fabricator, and a pilot, and a land speed racer, and a motorcycle racer, and his creativity comes out in different ways, but still from kind of that, we have that common ground of being able to kind of see something, have that visioning process, and then be relentless in the work that it takes to make it happen. So Dan is a person so much more than I am, just someone who amazes me at his ability to be like, okay, I have a plan. I know what I want to do, and I will just work doggedly until I can bring it to life. And there are, a million examples of that, but everything from, deciding when he was a teenager that he was going to build a car that would go 200 miles an hour on the Bonneville Salt Flats, and, doing that, and then 300 miles an hour, and then racing at the international air races at Reno, all of these things that just he really shouldn't have been qualified to do, shouldn't really have been able to do, but he just, when he gets something in his mind, he just puts all of his energy into making it happen. And not only that, but the creating of it all along the way. So it's not just, I will go find a vehicle that will go 200 miles an hour and I will buy it and I will take it and then I will drive it, but I will imagine it in my mind, and I will collect materials, and I will build it from the ground up, and I will engineer it, and I will test it, and I will drive it, and I will meet the goal. And that really is the story of his life, and all of the things that he has done has just been to have that vision first, and then to do whatever it takes to either put your own skills to work or acquire the skills necessary or acquire the team necessary to bring it to life. So it's been awesome because I've been able to support him with the business development, with the marketing, with the branding, working with promoters, getting his stuff out online, which is, he just wants to be in the shop with his buddies building, and then he wants to perform. So I'm able to then step up with the skills and abilities that I have to put the pieces together to make it a viable business, or something that can support us, our family, financially, or to put those pieces together so that it operates cohesively in a business model. So it's always an adventure here. There's never a dull moment.
You guys have a boxing studio on your property too, right? He boxes.
Yeah. So
he built a big space and a boxing studio.
Yep, he was a Golden Gloves boxer as a teenager, and over the years, people you may have never thought of it before, but Dan is an aerobatic pilot, and the kind of aerobatics that he performs at the unlimited level is extremely, extremely taxing on your body. So he has to stay in like tip-top shape for the air show season. So in the off season, he's always looking for like, what is the thing that I'm going to do that's going to keep me in shape? And over the years, with injuries and arthritis and different things, he's had to kind of like, he can't run anymore and he can't bike anymore, but he can still box. So a couple of years ago, he's just like, you know what? I'm going to build a gym and I'm going to find a boxing ring, and because that's what I have to do. And so he did, and people will look at us and be like, oh, must be nice. Or like, how did you manage that? And it is literally being relentless in what it is that you want and doing whatever it takes to get there. So we're not people who work 9 to 5, come home, put our feet up, watch TV, write a check to mortgage.
It's when you're there.
We're always going. I can hear the welder just clicked on downstairs. Like he and my sister, Will and Dan, they're down there building something, because he knows if he wants the boxing gym or he wants the jet car or whatever, we can't just write a check for it. Like, we got to figure out how are we going to get the resources or the materials or whatever to make it happen, which means that you have to be willing to work for it. And the beauty of it is when you're willing to develop marketable skills that people need and want and are willing to pay you for, then you can generate cash flow, which allows you to live the life that you want to live. And that really has been our story all along. We do cool things and we live, what some people might consider a very rich lifestyle, but we're not rich. We don't have, tons of financial resources. We just have skills that enable us to generate the money that we need, and we have skills that we can put to work that we don't have to pay someone else to do, to be able to have and do the things that we like to do.
Doc, my partner is also a mechanic, right? And he would say, well, I'm just a mechanic. And I was raised by a mechanic.
Yeah.
We'd be dead in the water without mechanics and AP guys. And, this idea that you're just a mechanic has never made any sense to me, because everything has been, the way we live is based upon people that are mechanically inclined, being able to create things. And so I think that being a mechanic is just as creative as being a painter or being an artist.
Absolutely.
When Doc pulls his motorcycle apart and changes the cam and does whatever he does to it, or he builds a transmission, it's about organizing information and understanding how things work together and placing it together, which is a huge skill. And it's such a blessing. My dad was that way. And I always said I didn't trust a man who couldn't fix anything. To me, that was the kind of person I was raised by. So it makes sense that we'd end up with mechanical people,
Absolutely.
And I love that you guys, that you're able to speak to his skill set in a way and also say that your skill set is together with his skill set. And people say, well, how do you get it all done? Well, everything that you do fits together nicely.
Yeah.
It's all very different, but it's actually very much the same. you know? And one of the things that we haven't talked about yet is your blogging. We're going to get to that in a minute, but I just want to talk about the Dale Carnegie course for a minute because it was one of the most impactful experiences that I've had in my professional career as far as training is concerned. You and I met at Rotary and you said, hey, Michelle, I'd like for you to do this course. And you actually gifted me the course. Do you know that? Do you remember that?
I do.
You gifted it.
Yeah.
And I sponsored, you were the director of Miss Vermont at that time, and I gifted my time to sponsor Miss Vermont for several, 3 or 4 Miss Vermonts in a row. Yep. And I love watching them become adults on Facebook.
I know, isn't it amazing?
You know, as they've grown and done their thing, it's been very interesting. But the Dale Carnegie course was really life transforming for me, I think. I think that the principles that Dale Carnegie taught are so important. So if you haven't read Think and Grow Rich, it's Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read How to Win Friends and Influence People, you really need to do that. And if there's a Dale Carnegie course in your area, I think you can probably take them online now, right?
There's a lot of different models that are happening. Of course, it's globally franchised. So every franchise, you know, may be handling their courses differently, but certainly public courses are still alive and well. And there's all kinds of new content around, you know, shorter workshop type formats for the training. And that's across the board, both in the course that you took, which of course is connected to human relations and communication. But there's sales training, there's management training, there's high impact presentations, which is, you know, one of my favorite programs of all time. And then a variety of workshops that are around all kinds of skills, including, you know, conflict resolution, project management, you know, an assortment of, you know, what you might consider those soft skills or people skills, leadership and an assortment of programming. So the organization is alive and well, more than 100 years old, and still absolutely relevant because at least for the foreseeable human future, we are relational beings, and technology will change and the world changes and the technical skills required in the world change, but people remain largely the same. And so the principles and the tools and the techniques for building strong relationships and communicating effectively and leading and, you know, really getting a grip on our attitude and our self-confidence, those things are really, really timeless. So the delivery of that training may evolve and the context may evolve, but the foundational principles have remained very much tried and true over the years.
I remember being in that class and it was like me, and then there was other people that were self-employed, but there was also some people from Magic Hat and people from the state.
Yeah.
And oh my God, we had someone from radio, and of course I can see his little face right now, but I can't remember his name, which is so typical of me at this stage of my life. But you know,
was Louis Mano in your class?
Louis, who's on Facebook with me. Every once in a while, he's like, hey, you know. So I think that's what and I trying to remember who the girl was from Magic Hat. Do you remember?
You've put me on the spot. I can see her as plain as day, and
she had a great personality. But I think she moved on from Magic Hat to something else shortly after that. But what I thought was really cool about it was that I was in grad school at the time too, I think. I had just finished grad school. And I felt that I almost got more out of that course than I got out of my leadership classes in grad school, for sure. I had the same kind of experience in grad school. I have a master's in administration with a concentration in organizational behavior. You know, how does an artist get that? This is what you and I have in common.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
You know, brain that I realized after many years of being a personal trainer and an artist that had a marketing company that I was in business, and I should be accountable for that. So I went back and got my master's in administration, and I was blessed to be able to go to school with some really cool, very innovative Vermonters. Yeah. I feel really blessed to have had that experience. Now, you also are a writer. And you have a strong, beautiful woman blog that I actually just submitted stuff for.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a passion project of yours.
It is.
So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, writing is another one of those things that has been a core part of my person, forever. I come from a family of writers, and writing for me has always, been both a personal outlet for kind of processing, my experience in the world, and has proven extremely beneficial as an entrepreneur, as a teacher, as a community leader. Sometimes when you have a particular skill set, sometimes you take it for granted that, you think, well, like everybody can do this, and not everybody can paint, and not everybody can arrange flowers, and lo and behold, not everybody can write
Yeah, well, it's
well. So writing, depending on the season of my life, has taken on a lot of, different lives of its own. But right now, Strong Beautiful Woman, I launched last year. It's been actually just about a year. And after I finished grad
You
school,
launched it about the same time I launched Relentless Talk Radio, because I
yeah,
launched Relentless Talk Radio in November of last year.
yeah.
And just
So
after that.
yeah, I had finished grad school. I got a master's degree in foundations of education, where I was already a licensed teacher. So I didn't need to I didn't need to do a master's degree for licensure. But it was something that I wanted to do, and I'm a lifelong learner. So I took advantage of an opportunity to get a master's degree, chose a degree in foundations of education, which allowed me to really dig into the philosophy side of education and really dig deep into like how humans learn and why we learn. And I really dug deep into topics around othering and belonging, and always tied back to the
Oh,
classroom. But I just kind of fell into this rabbit hole of really doing critical thinking about human beings, and the result of that, I am still experiencing on a daily basis. It is definitely an experience that helped to open my eyes and help me to realize that a core value that I've been living my whole life, that I didn't even really realize or hadn't been able to articulate up until very recently, is this idea of justice. And the incredible gift in grad school to be able to do critical thinking and to do critique specifically around social narratives and social constructs was just absolutely incredible and empowering. And so Strong Beautiful Woman came out of that, um, as a way for me to have a place to do some writing, but more importantly, to have a place to feature real people, specifically women, to tell stories, to break down and challenge and critique social narratives about what it means to be a woman, and what it means to be feminine, and what it means to be strong, and to challenge the dichotomy that we love to live in as human beings, that things are either this or that, and you can pick whatever topic you want.
right.
Um, but I refuse to buy into a narrative that says, as a woman, you can be strong, or you can be feminine, or you can do this, or you can do that. And I remember
Yeah.
the thing that really set me off was this post that went around social media of the photographer who had taken pictures of her daughters dressed up in like full makeup and crowns and tiaras and tulle gowns with athletic equipment. So they would have like a softball glove, or they had cleats on, but they were in these like princess attire.
Right.
And it was this whole thing about, girls can be princesses and they can be
You
athletes
athlete.
too. And I was just like, what? It was just like crazy to me that we would be like putting girls in these, to begin with, in these ridiculous stereotyped ideals of what it means to be feminine and what it means to be masculine, or what it means to be strong. And so to illustrate that visually in such a stereotypical way, like, put me over the edge. But then to say that, like, it somehow has to be a choice that you have to straddle, And of course, my background in pageantry, which I have really, walked away from in my adult life, just really got my wheels turning, and I thought, like,
Right.
I gotta do something. So it's been such an awesome project. I'm not always able to give it the kind of attention that I want, but it is, it is slowly gaining traction, and I'm just committed to continuing to give amazing women of all shapes and sizes and walks of life and backgrounds a place to tell their story and to just shed light on, what it means to be a strong, beautiful woman. And it's just been really, for me, empowering and extremely humbling to be uh, on the receiving end of those stories, and to be able to hold them physically and emotionally, to be able to, like, take the words and take the images and take the stories, and then to be able to reflect them back out to the world. So I think in that way, that is something that I've been involved in the past year or so, that feels like it is a really lovely marriage between both of those core values of making a difference and of justice. So,
It's such an interesting topic to me because I get oh, Michelle, you have such a strong personality.
Yeah.
And what'll happen is that recently I had a conversation this year with someone that I've networked with over the years, and it was a volatile response to a situation where there was a miscommunication. And I remember interrupting that person saying, "You do realize that you have me in tears right now, right?"
Yeah.
And they said, "Well, you're a badass. You don't cry." And I went, "Wow. This is proof of how little you know me, if that's what you think is true about me."
Yeah.
Because I cry a lot. I'm a big crybaby. You know what I mean? And just because I'm strong and I'm smart and I'm driven and I'm relentless does not mean that I am void of feeling.
Yeah.
You can actually hurt me. And it hurts deeply. In fact, I think part of the reason why I am the way I am is because I am so sensitive. You know what I mean? I think, and I learned, I think one of the reasons why I'm a biker is because, people will see these guys with the big beards and the bellies and, that they're on their big motorcycles. And those guys are the biggest cream puffs on the planet for the most part. Even the ones that are felons. Okay. If you sat down with those guys and just had a conversation, they are just as soft as the next person. It's just, whatever has happened in their life, that's a choice they've made to be the way they are or whatever. But I just think this idea that we have to be one way or the other is really flippin' annoying, because nobody is one way or the other.
Yeah.
Everybody has soft spots. I don't care how strong you are on the outside. I'm sure, there's some of our leaders that people think, and I won't name any of them because this is not a political show, but there's some of our leaders who people think that they have no feelings, but we're not at home with them at night. You know what I mean? I love being around people, but there's definitely times where I got to step away and, like, regroup, because I absorb I'm an empath, so I absorb a lot of people's stuff. So to be an empath and super emotional and hypersensitive and very aware of how my behavior and other behavior in the world affects humans, and then to be this biker chick, strong-willed, strong opinion, voice person. It's not, one is not exclusive of the other. They actually are like two sides of the same coin for me. And I think that women there's this dance that we have to do where you can be strong, but not too strong. Because once you're too strong, then you get put into the bitch category, and then people can talk to you however you want, because now that it's okay for them to talk to a bitch that way. I remember there was a time when I was in college and Oprah was getting beat up over something. And I said, you know what? If a man did the same exact thing that she did, he would just be running a business. But as a woman, you couldn't be that strong without being labeled. And I think it's the same way for men in the opposite extreme. That if you show emotion, or you show, that you're a wuss or a pussy, I don't make that word up. People say it. But isn't that interesting That word is about a piece of female anatomy, supposedly, or a cat, one or the other. But I mean, it's just amazing to me how people think it's one or the other. Like, people think that being fearless means that you have no fear. And when I initially named my consulting company, it was Fearlessly Deliver. And it was because, just like what you've said about you and Dan, I have just made a decision in my life that no matter what, I'm going to show up.
Yeah.
And I'm going to put my fear aside and walk forward for two reasons. One, I don't choose to live in a place where there's limitations or fear or everything's a tragedy, because that's depressing. But also, what other choice do you have, really?
Yeah.
I mean, what we're going through right now, as a society, each one of us is going to have to walk through our own particular version of what COVID-19 is going to do to our life and our family and our future. And our country and our world is going to have to roll through I mean, we can't just like go to sleep, wake up, and not have this stuff happening. I couldn't just wish away my brother not committing suicide or any of the other tough things I've had to go through. You have to get up every morning and show up. So this idea that being a strong woman, when people say, "Oh, Michelle, you're a strong woman," what they're doing is insulting me. Because, oh, you're a strong woman means you're a pain in the ass. You're difficult to deal with. You have strong personalities that make me have to manage myself. And I just think it's interesting that strength is considered a bad thing for women sometimes. But at the same time, if you're too weak, you get a different example. So I love that you're having this conversation, because it's one that people like you and I, who are strong and smart and driven and creative, and by all regards, forces of nature in and of ourselves, people somehow think that because we're that way, it's somehow easier. People will say to me, "Michelle, it's easier for you." I'm like, no, it's not. It's not easier for me. I might have some different skills than you have. I might have a different drive than you have, but it's not easier for me. I've just chosen not to let hard and fear and difficult keep me from my mission.
Yeah.
So I love that you're doing the blog.
Thanks. And I'm behind you 100% on everything that you're saying. For me, it really is about teasing out and just putting a spotlight on the social narratives and helping people to see, in fact, that so much of the struggle and the tension that we experience, whether we experience it as from a gender perspective or a racial perspective or socioeconomic or whatever the category may be, that you're experiencing the tension or you're experiencing the othering or you're experiencing whatever it is that you're experiencing, so much of that is socially constructed storytelling, and some of it is new and some of it goes back for, eons of our history as human beings. But it doesn't mean that we're tied to it. And it doesn't mean that we just have to go, "Oh, well, that's just the way it is." It doesn't mean we have to say things like, "Well, boys will be boys," or we have to be like, "Oh, in order for girls to be feminine, we have to dress like princesses." It's those are socially constructed narratives. And you know what? A lot of them are connected to business and to capitalism. And sometimes
all that stuff is, when you think about it, all that stuff had to be purchased. You know what I mean?
We knew that
we were going to have a hard time once we got rolling, because it's now 3:34 and we're a couple minutes in. That's fine. But we haven't talked about Virtual Heartbox, which is a new project that we just started a couple weeks ago, and you're going to be doing some vlogging and writing and processing in that blog. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how your heart shows up in that.
Well,
I love that you and I could sit down to have a cup of coffee and 4 hours could pass by. And this is the level of conversation we've always had in the 15 years of friendship that we've had, going on 16.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to mention Isagenix briefly. They're my product partner and in the health and fitness part of what I do. And I'm just so incredibly proud of what they're doing in the midst of COVID-19. If you want to know what Isagenix, the ISA Foundation, is doing, go ahead and Google it, and you will see that Isagenix is stepping up. It's one of the big reasons why I chose Isagenix as my product partner this year, was because of what they're doing in the community. And it's a perfect example of what you and I believe in. Absolutely. That business, in order to really help on a large level, like, money is not the most important thing, but it's right up there with air. And when we have these kinds of tragedies, companies like Isagenix and Netflix just gave $100 million to help the creative community. I'm sure Disney is doing something amazing. I saw that Cox was doing something. These big companies that are making a lot of money providing services for people, the fact that they're stepping up is really awesome. And I just think that, kudos to the companies that are stepping up to be of service in the situation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for all of the entrepreneurs and the small business owners and the people, out in the gig economy and stuff, they're on the front lines of it too. And, not everyone can make a difference financially, but we can all make a difference in the relationships that we have with one another, with those one-on-one, with our friends, with our community, with our clients. Yeah. It's that reaching out and being a human connection during a time when we are physically isolated. That to me is a way to live into that message that I tell my students, every day. They're still hearing it from me, even though they're not in my classroom right now. I don't let students leave my classroom at the end of a period until they hear me say, go make a difference. And, those are the things that we can keep doing, even if we can't be face-to-face with our clients, even if we can't have our brick and mortar shops open right now. We can still reach out as one human being to another and to make those connections and to maintain and build and preserve those relationships, because ultimately that is what makes all of this go round and round and round. Without it, we don't have anything.
And that's 100% what Relentless Talk Radio was about. It was about me having conversations like this one that show the process of what it looks like to be relentless for real. Yeah. Okay. And connecting with each other. This conversation, if no one watches it, it's been success, right? Absolutely. But also sharing, people can basically eavesdrop on our conversation and somehow be inspired by it and potentially discover something of their own that gives them passion and moves them forward, or it helps them move the arrow just a little bit to the left. So Sarah Jo, I really love you. I just do.
Michelle.
I'm super proud of you. And I'm going to show you something. I should have gotten it earlier, but do you remember when you made me this?
Yes, I do.
So it's right in my bedroom, and I see it every day. It's one of my favorite things. So you sent this to me in the mail, like, I don't know, 5 years ago or so, yes. And it's Fearless. So my company was Fearlessly Delivered, and it's one of my favorite things ever. Oh, and I have the doves that you sent me on my wall on my way into my office. And I have another thing that you gave me over here on my side panel. So I love you very much. I'm inspired by you, and I'm proud of you.
I have the little dove that you sent me too, and the little paper crane. And so the feeling is mutual. We keep each other close, even though the miles may separate us physically.
From way Northeast Kingdom here in Arizona, had a live interview. Shared our thing. You take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. Love you.
Love you too. All right, guys. So there's episode 66 of Relentless Talk Radio. It's a wrap, and we're fearless here at Relentless Talk Radio. Next week is the third Tuesday of the month, and I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, we have the Relentless Women Mastermind next week with me, Alyssa Glutz, and Sharon Bondron. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty much sure. I probably should just check while I've got you here. Let's see. Oh, actually not. I have Kim Lannon from Game Face Consulting and Grant Vetter from the Arizona State University talking about art. So the next week after that is the Relentless Woman Mastermind. So tune in next week, every week. It's now Pacific Standard Time here in Arizona. I always forget that there's a switch. So 2:30 to 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, give or take a couple minutes, because right now it's 3:40. All right, guys, have a good rest of your day. And I don't know, we're all going to get through this. It's going to be okay. It's going to get really weird and interesting first, but it's going to be okay. All right, guys, have a good day.